even just traveling for business makes me a little apprehensive because I do wear the headscarf, the hijab. It's challenging. I mean, I remember there was one time when I was working for Cooper Vision, which is a contact lens manufacturer, and we engaged with a fashion blogger to do kind of like this campaign around beauty and contact lenses. And so that required me to do a 3-day shoot in Houston, Texas, and my flight in, I was all nervous. It was fine. We shot, everybody in Texas was lovely. And then I fly out and I'm on this Southwest flight and I sit next to the most horrendous couple and they start verbally abusing me in front of everyone. And there's an African American woman in front of me and an Asian American woman, and they're both cringing, but everybody's afraid to say anything.
Thank you for joining me with another episode of Confessions of Successful Asian Women. I'm so excited about my next guest. Minara Rahman is a digital marketing manager with Zaytuna College, which is one of the first Muslim colleges in the U.S. And she's one of the pioneers, Muslim beauty fashion bloggers. She's been around for a long time. She's got a beautiful personality, a winning smile, a twinkle in her eye, and I'm so excited to have her join me in Confessions of Successful Asian Women. Thank you, Minara, for being on the show.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Minara, tell us about yourself. Where is your background from?
So my parents are from Bangladesh, so I'm a Bangladeshi of just Bangladeshi descent, and I was born and raised in Flushing, Queens.
Tell us about what brought you to California.
It's kind of funny because I used to joke as like a little kid that I was going to move to Beverly Hills and be filthy rich. So clearly I had my priorities straight. But I ended up moving to California from Buffalo after I graduated law school because I had an arranged marriage and my husband worked out in the Bay Area.
So you have an interesting career. You started out in law.
Yep.
And then you found yourself in the construction industry.
Yes. And prior to that, the medical device industry.
Wow. And then you're also blogging on the side.
Yes. Actually, it's kind of funny. While I was still in law school, some part of me screamed, "You're not going to make it as a lawyer." I don't know what it was, but I just didn't have that adversarial personality. And I was looking at alternative routes and I looked at public interest and I was almost about to join like CARE, Council of American Islamic Relations. And I just kept looking for something. And so in my last semester of law school, I was in this digital intellectual property class, and my concentration was in IP law. And so I started this IP law blog about fashion because that was like my passion, or the lack there is of intellectual property rights in fashion.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah, so I was blogging back when there was only one platform. It was called Blogger, and this is like back in 2007. So it's been a long journey, but that's how I got started into blogging. And then when I got married and moved out here, I got hired by FindLaw.com, which is part of Thomson Reuters, and they were looking for licensed attorneys who knew how to blog. And so that's how I got into digital marketing.
Did you always have an interest in fashion since you were a little girl?
Absolutely. I used to love fashion, and a lot of it had to do with the fact that it was always so glamorous in all the movies, and I was totally into watching movies. I'm a total movie file. I just love it. And so like one of the things I would always look at was like, Ingrid Bergman's wardrobe. I was obsessed with Audrey Hepburn's outfits, and I would beg my parents to take me to Manhattan all the time so we can walk in front of like Tiffany's, for example, or take me to Saks, and they would just be like, "Who are you? And are you our child?"
And when did you start wearing the hijab?
That I started very young, and I started it when I was 11 or going on 12. And it was mainly because I had a really amazing Sunday school teacher. And my parents were actually hesitant. They were like, "Listen, girl, you're about to start middle school. You're kind of popular as an elementary school kid. You sure you want to do this to yourself? It's kind of social suicide. And I was just very adamant and I wanted to wear it. And I ended up losing all of the people that I was friends with in elementary school because they were like, who is this girl wearing hijab? We don't really relate to her anymore. But I really found my core group of friends that I'm still friends with today.
But you also embraced being different, right?
Yes.
And your whole blog is about it's okay to be plus size. It's
Yes.
okay. Beauty comes in all different sizes and shapes, and you don't have to be fair and lovely.
Yeah, I do try to tell my readers that you're beautiful in any shape or size you are, in any color you are. Hijab is meant to enhance your beauty, inward and outward. And so I was focusing more on my inward. I had a few health-related issues after my pregnancy, which is why I started to go to boot camp and start eating well. And I wanted to convey that to my readers. So I talked very candidly about my sugar addiction, and I talked about how I'm embracing this healthier lifestyle, but I don't want to make it because it's all about the way I look. And it's more about your inward journey and growth that I want to convey. And that's the part where I feel like it could get lost in that medium of blogging, and especially Instagram, because we see these like before and after pictures that's called Fitspiration or Fitspo. And it's so easy to be like, wow, that girl was plus size and now look, she's 110 pounds. And isn't that amazing? And you know what? Some of the before pictures, the women look just as beautiful. And I think that you'll see even with non-hijabi bloggers, you'll see that dichotomy of what's healthy and what's not. Should we embrace obesity? I don't know. Should we embrace being underweight or eating disorders? Probably not, but you can't convey all of those complexities in a picture.
Do you have a sense of responsibility, especially as a digital marketer?
Absolutely. You just always have to be mindful of what's going to be out there. So you can't necessarily say what you want to say all the time. You have to kind of take a step back and think, okay, will this reflect poorly on the people that I work with? Is this going to reflect poorly on the institution that I work with? And so you always have to think twice before you post something. I'm actually pretty conservative when it comes to what I post on Instagram. I don't post my kids on there. I use Facebook to share things about my kids, but even then I'm very guarded. And I think a lot of that has to do with seeing what happens when you're just too open and you overshare.
Tell us about your experience as a woman who wears hijab in the corporate place.
I think it's socially acceptable for women to wear hijab and be a certain weight, for example, and be viewed as a hard worker. I feel like I was definitely viewed as a hard worker when I was a lot thinner. And then when I gained the weight after my baby, it was like something switched, and there was like this slight discrimination that I feel wearing hijab, being a woman of color, and being overweight.
Right. So I came across this term called heap eating.
Yes.
Which is basically when you present an idea in a meeting and then there's no validation from the group. But when a man presents that same idea, all of a sudden everyone's embracing it. Have you had a lot of heap eating happen to you?
Absolutely. You could have the best idea and everybody's kind of like, yeah, that's not going to work. And then like a few days later, the same idea will be presented by a man heap eating, and everybody's like, wow, what a great idea. And you're just like, wait, what just happened? And it's amazing because I read an article about the Obama administration and what the women did to prevent heap eating. And so what they would do is they would echo each other. And so if a woman gave an idea, another woman would validate that idea and say, that's a great idea.
So you have an ally in the room.
Yes. And I think it's so important. But unfortunately, I think in corporate culture, women are taught to be pit against each other, and we don't necessarily have that teamwork that should be there.
Let's talk about some of the challenges that you've faced in your career. You've had a pretty rich career. You started out in law, then you worked in a corporate setting. Now you're in a nonprofit world, and you've tried a lot of different things along the way. I'm sure you must have faced some challenges.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's always the challenge of having to work twice as hard as everybody else to show that you can have a place at the table. Even just traveling for business makes me a little apprehensive because I do wear the headscarf, the hijab. It's challenging. I mean, I remember there was one time when I was working for Cooper Vision, which is a contact lens manufacturer, and we engaged with a fashion blogger to do kind of like this campaign around beauty and contact lenses. And so that required me to do a 3-day shoot in Houston, Texas. And my flight in, I was all nervous. It was fine. We shot, everybody in Texas was lovely. And then I fly out and I'm on this Southwest flight and I sit next to the most horrendous couple and they start verbally abusing me in front of everyone. And there's an African American woman in front of me and an Asian American woman, and they're both cringing, but everybody's afraid to say anything.
What were they saying to you?
So they said things like, oh, your sandwich, I brought like a shrimp sandwich on there because obviously you need to eat sometime, right? They were like, oh, your sandwich stinks to high heaven. It makes me want to vomit. I'm going to vomit all over you and you're going to sit in your own vomit for X amount of hours, and then this is when I start looking around for somebody to help me. And they were like, you can look around all you want, but there's no Muslims here to save you, honey.
Oh my God. So nobody spoke up for you.
Nobody spoke up for me, but it's kind of funny because the Southwest flight attendant overheard them talking to me. And so he basically said, you guys are being jerks. And since we're in midair and I can't stop this flight and kick you off, I'm going to move her, but we're not serving you for the rest of this flight.
Wow.
Yeah, it got pretty bad because it all started because I got on the plane and I was afraid of actually the condensation of my drink hitting the woman because I already could tell they were like annoyed that I was in the seat. So I just threw it out and the flight attendant saw and was like, why are you throwing out a perfectly good drink? And so he gave me a bottle of water because he felt bad that I threw out my drink. And so I walked back with this bottle of water and they complained about me getting special treatment for being Muslim.
How do you deal with hurtful words?
I think that when things like that happen, it's easy to freeze, and I usually have fight or flight response. And in this case, I just froze. I was like a deer in the headlights. For some reason, something in my brain just shut off and I just sat there motionless.
And you felt small.
And I did. I felt really small and I was like, what am I going to do? And that's when I started looking around for assistance and I didn't see any until finally the flight attendant came by and heard the vile things they were saying to me. So I wish I could say like, yeah, I fought back and I was valiant and I convinced them that they were wrong and ignorant. But sometimes you really just can't win. And I think that as I get older, I realize you can't change people, but you can change yourself. You can change your reaction. You can just understand that it's not you, that it's really about them. And if they feel the need to attack a defenseless woman, then you just have to feel sorry for them. And so really now, if anybody is negative to me, I don't have that condescending, I'm going to pray for you attitude. But I do pray for them. I pray that they find happiness and peace, that they don't have to go around spewing hate to anyone, whether it's me, whether it's somebody who's Sikh, or any person of color, or whoever.
What is your definition of success?
I think my definition of success varies. But for now, it means to be content with what I have and who I have it with. And I think I've made it right now because I'm really happy with where I am with my kids. They're such amazing kids. I'm happy with my job. My husband and I, alhamdulillah, thank God. My husband and I, we went through some trying times when the kids were little and the lack of sleep and tensions run high. But, we're really hitting our stride now and I'm savoring every moment.
If you had one day to live, how would you this it?
First of all, I'd probably hop on a flight and go to Paris, and I'd probably go to this amazing chocolate place called Angelina's, and I would have chocolat chaud, and then I would take my kids up the Eiffel Tower to have a view of Paris. And then we would ride a carousel right next to the Eiffel Tower and just hang out.
What advice would you give to a young, rising professional woman?
I would say, don't take everything so personally. Take a step back, assess it objectively, and then pick your battles. You know, there are going to be some things that you just have to kind of let go, and you have to be okay with it. And also, always, before you do anything, look at the political climate. You know, if you've got people in other teams, how do they interact with your team? How do they interact with your boss? Get the lay of the land before you start trying to, you know, come out there with guns a-blazing.
Thank you, Minara. Good luck with everything.
Same with you.
I hope that you got some revealing confessions to help you in your journey to success. To nominate a guest on this podcast, send an email to info@confessionsofsuccessfulasianwomen.com.